All right, Dylan, last year, I did one of my first ever interviews, actually, I think was with you when I got partnered with Torque Motorsport. I remember I had Brian Olford introduce me. I was a little nervous, and I remember the questions that I asked you for the short were favorite generation BMW,
right?
And then I said most overrated BMW.
And I said
that?
E30, and I think that hurt your feelings a little bit.
It hurt my feelings. It didn't just hurt my feelings, Dylan. It hurt everyone's feelings on the internet.
Here's me. I'm just out here stirring the pot, right?
I have to ask, it's almost coming up on a year now. If you could go back and change your opinion on the most overrated BMW, would you go away from the E30 or are you going to double down on that?
I don't know, man. It's tough to say overrated. I think BMW makes a lot of really cool cars, but here's how I feel about old cars, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this as well because old cars to me, and I think that I say this because this will change as time goes on, I believe, but if something's old to me, it just means it doesn't work well. Like, everybody does resto mods, and I think that that's really cool, but to me, like, I hate to say that, but like, if it's old, it doesn't work well. So I think that like an overrated BMW would just be like an old one that kind of sucks. You know what I mean? Like you jump in your M2 comp, and that thing's a weapon. I mean it works very well. And you jump in a stock 2002, and you're like, okay, it looks cool. You can't buy something like this now, but is it really good?
Now
like,
it's painful that it's accurate. I will agree with you. There is some niceness to having some new stuff. Jumping in a brand new BMW obviously is a win. Have you had a chance to get behind like the new G80 series?
No G80s. I've done a track prepped M4 competition. I went to the BMW Performance Driving School.
How was it?
It was unbelievable. Like a proper caged race car and a bunch of M4s and a couple M2s. You know, got to whip them around and slide them around a little bit, and like unbelievable.
Dude, I would say if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're really trying to get into maybe that next step of driving, no matter what type it is, go to a driving school. I would say save as much money as you can. It's totally worth it to do like a 1-2 day experience. I went to Ron Fellows over like outside of Las Vegas. I've done a couple of those too. Absolutely fantastic event. But we're not talking about Corvettes with Ron Fellows. We're talking about BMWs with Dylan Hughes, who just so happens to be a Formula Drift professional racing driver. That's got to be pretty cool to like tell people, I suppose. How's the season been? How have you been? How's the car been? How's life?
Good, man. Yeah. So we're sitting in 9th overall in points right now, and the competition side is pretty important to us. We got a couple of crew members here that are really passionate about this, and this is our full-time job. I don't have another job. We have a shop. We do content programs. We make our sponsors happy, and this is what we do, right? So we take this very seriously, and race weekends can become a little bit stressful because of that. So it's fun to be able to go to events in Southern California like Hot Pit Auto Fest. I was able to go and do a little bit of driving out there a month or two back, and kind of like fall in love with drifting again, because it really, the FD weekends are, it's work, man, straight up. Like it's pressure and it's stress, and don't get me wrong, I love the driving, it is so much fun, but that's a very small portion of what we do as pro drifters. So besides that, man, I've been trying to ride dirt bikes on the weekends, try and stay in shape.
I think it's cool that you bring up a couple points that I think are important, because a lot of people that watch our channel, they're learning how to drift, they want to understand the more real side of the sport, and you bring up something that's actually kind of important, is like, you're here to get it done. You're here to also make sure that like the sponsors that you have on board and the things that you're kind of agreeing to, that you're also getting done. That's a lot of work to do. Like when you're signing up for the content, when you're signing up for doing the videos, when you're signing up for all the scripts, like how does somebody balance all of that? Because I do think there are people out there that think you show up, there's a car here, you go out there, you drive, you're done, and then you go home.
Not even, this is not F1 by any means. I'm an owner, operator, team manager. I mean, I like to tell everybody it's 80% businessman, 10% putting out fires, 10% play race car driver. You know what I mean? It's very much, the business side of it is very, very important. And let's be honest, we don't get to do this if the business side doesn't happen. So you need to make sure that your sponsors are happy. You need to make sure that your deliverables are taken care of. That's priority number one. And then we get to go play race cars sometimes.
Absolutely.
So it's a balance for sure. And it can be a lot. So sometimes my parents live up in Reno, Nevada now. So over the 4th of July, I just was like, I'm out of here. Like I cannot, I literally just went up there for a week and went and chilled out in Lake Tahoe and like kicked it. And that was like the first time I've really ever done a vacation. And it was fantastic. So it is a lot, but like I'm a very lucky individual. I get to do some really cool stuff, and I got some awesome sponsors.
What would be like a tip for somebody who might be maybe kind of edging out of the grassroots, trying to get into maybe some like local competition stuff? Maybe they're trying to find a sponsor or something. Maybe they're trying to get some help on tires or a generator, for instance. You know, like what would be a tip you give them?
It's easy to be in the racing. It's easy to go like me. This is all about me. But at the end of the day, if somebody's you have to give something back. It's a give and take. It's a push and a pull. So like you need to understand that if somebody's gonna help you out, they want something out of it. Whether they say they do or not, they're gonna want something out of it. So you really need to be like, okay, what can I do for this person in exchange for a generator or a pair of tires or a couple of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be able to give them something so that you can get something. Nothing is ever free. Nothing in life is free. There is always a give and a take. So I think just donate your time. Find your local track, find your local hot rod dude, and just observe. And then, you know, hey, if you guys need a hand, I'm cool. You know, if you guys like, no pressure, but if you need a hand, I'm here. Like if you want me here at the next round, I'll be here. I'll fly myself or drive myself in, fly myself in, pay for my food, my hotels, whatever. And just start to help like your local hot rod guy, and then just become a familiar face around the track. Because the people that you meet at the track are ultimately gonna be the ones that'll be like, oh no, like this dude is pretty cool. Like no, like I heard about a deal where somebody's giving away 2 tires. Let's like try and get this dude into that.
When you look back to kind of how you started getting into drifting, is there a track or a location or an event that really speaks to you as like, this was the time where I realized I'm doing this, you know, for a long period of time?
Yeah, I drove Pat's Acres for the very first time. I was one of those guys where I couldn't just leave my car alone. I had an SR20, I would street drift it all the time, and that's always sketchy. I don't really recommend that. But then I like hurt that motor and I was like done with that V8 time, which looking back is somewhat foolish, but I was one of those guys where I swapped it real quick, and then my very first track day with the V8 was down at Pat's Acres in Portland. And I like was able to link the whole track my first day on the track and was like doing pretty well, and I was like, this is it. And then really, I got connected with Forsberg through a crazy series of events, and I moved to the East Coast and brought my car with me, and we started running the Club Loose, the Englishtown events at Raceway Park myself. And then as soon as I got into that, I was like, this is it. And then I showed up to US Drift and Pro-Am for my rookie year in 2015, won the championship my rookie year, and from then on it was just,
now we're here.
Yeah.
Now we're here in 2023.
2023.
And you're 9th in points, you said?
I'm 9th in points right now.
And how's that been going? Like, is there any big secret, anything left in the rest of the rounds that you're gonna try to like hone in on that you think's gonna bring you closer? Or?
No, I think with drifting, a lot of it is luck and, you know, being sharp when you gotta be sharp. You know, you make split-second decisions every weekend that, you know, you look back on it and it's crystal clear. Hindsight's always 20/20 is all I'm trying to get at.
Always.
You learn every time. Drifting is not necessarily like, oh, he's the new fast kid.
Okay.
It's wisdom. That's why Frederick Osbo's a robot. Chris is a robot. All the dudes who've been doing it forever, because they make split-second decisions on the fly under pressure, and they make the right decision. Like, should I have handbrake or should I have stayed on the throttle? You know what I mean? So it's
and you don't know
wisdom.
that until you start actually getting out there doing it, and sometimes doing it for multiple seasons to figure it out. I gotta ask you, you know, you've been in this for a little bit now. You've been doing drifting for a little bit now. The seasons seem to continuously kind of adapt. I read the judging book every time they make an update. I try to see where the changes are, but there's sometimes where I hear drivers that will be like, I'd really like to see more of this, or hey, I'd really like to see a track get opened up here, and they're usually pretty passionate about it. Is there ever been like a change or anything that you would have wanted to see in a future season or a new track from the FD circuit?
Yeah, I mean, skip St. Louis altogether. I think it's a not a good place to be. I mean, nobody really shows up. I don't know. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I will say, on a positive note, everybody knows how I feel about that track. On a positive note, I was very impressed with Orlando this year.
Okay.
We showed up and they ended up paving that insanely abrupt transition coming off of the bank. They paved it the morning we were going to practice it, and I had no faith. I was like, this is going to rip up into a million pieces. It's going to be even worse. By the grace of God, it held, and it honestly completely changed the dynamic of that track, mixed with they made it more of an S through the infield. So when you come off the bank, you weren't just beelining it as a lead car. You kind of checked up a little bit. I had so much fun in Orlando this year, and I thought I would never say that. So I'm very appreciative of those changes that they made this year to that track. And winning last year gave us all the confidence coming in. I feel like I was dooring dudes in practice, and we got 4th place overall in that event this year, but we haven't landed a podium yet this year, so that's a little bit frustrating. We did 2 in 2021. We got our first win last year in Orlando. No podiums this year, and that's bumming me out a little bit, but we still got a couple rounds left, and I usually feel pretty good here. So.
That's awesome. I'm excited to watch you. Last thing I gotta ask, if you could, take the logistics and everything else out of it. You get a track, you get a car, you get to drive it. It can be for drift, it could be just for track. What car are you taking and where are you going?
It's tough to say, man. I don't know. I've always had this real soft spot for Spa. I don't know why.
Okay.
Spa in Belgium seems like a really sick track. I mean, and of course I would.
Iconic line too.
Dude, I can't remember what the iconic chicane is called right after pit road there. They got a name for it, but I can't remember it. But I've driven that on a simulator in an F1 car more than I'm proud to admit. And like, I have so much fun at that track. I think it's so cool. And like, I would gnaw my pinky off right now to drive an F1 car. So I mean, that's pretty obvious. So I think that kind of goes for everybody. So F1 car at Spa.
F1 car at Spa. No. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Good
Good to
luck
see you
out
again.
there. And of course, if you guys don't know, go follow Dylan Hughes. You can go follow along with the story over on Instagram, YouTube, pretty much every social media humanly possible. And of course, I wish you the best of luck, even though the internet may not agree with your choice in the E30 being overrated. But
that's all right.
All right, that's besides the point. We'll see you later.